Hello again. I've remarked before that people wishing to change sex are pretty rare, and that being the case, I'm baffled by the way that we are all of us expected to change our own way of life to accommodate their supposed needs. As with homosexuals, I've no desire to see transsexuals mistreated or discriminated against, but nor do I see why I should be inconvenienced in order to satisfy what shows all the signs of being no more really than a fashionable craze. There have always been men who wish to appear in public and be accepted as women, just as there has always been a very small number of women who wish that they were men. I give a link to a study from 20 years ago before this current mania for changing sex began. And according to the research at that time, there are perhaps 2 or 3,000 genuine transsexuals in the whole of Britain. I wish them well, but what is now happening is that all our lives are being disrupted so that we bend over backward to avoid any transsexual being upset ever. This strikes me as a bit much. The latest business is, of course, that the traditional and quite logical arrangement for lavatories does not suit them, and so we should all change our habits. The Houses of Parliament is being refurbished over the next few years, and some fool decided that the diversity and inclusion team needed to be called in to help with the planning. They have decided as a result of this that, and let me quote, where are we now? New buildings will have a target of 70% gender neutral toilets with a 30% split between either male and female facilities. I mean, most of us can see what the problem is with that, but I'll go into that in a moment. They go on to say, we want to ensure that all staff can be their authentic selves at work, regardless of their gender identity or gender expression. I literally do not understand what that means. I certainly don't understand what it has to do with using a lavatory. I wonder if anybody has spotted the problem here, and this is one which is likely to concern women, by which I mean real biological women. If 70% of lavatories are to be gender neutral, and the remaining 30% split between those for men and those for women, then this means that instead of 50% of the facilities, as is the situation everywhere in the country now, only 15% will be designated for the use of women. Less than a third of what they usually have, in other words. I say women because it is they who will be most affected by this kind of scheme. And by the way, the Houses of Parliament are not alone in this madness. Practically all new public spaces are planning for the time when facilities are gender neutral, or unisex as we used to call them. Schools are doing the same thing. Speaking for myself, I'm not shy about such matters, and I'm perfectly happy to use places which are used by both men and women. It's nothing to me. But the reality is that women absolutely hate that sort of setup. They want privacy, and they'll avoid like the plague lavatories which they must share with men. If only 15% are designated for them, then they will all use that 15%. And none of them will use the gender neutral ones. Why should the wishes of a tiny number of people, a minute fraction of 1% of the population, dictate such things as this, that the proportions of women's lavatories in a building should be reduced from 50% to 15%? How is that reasonable and fair? Just as with racial prejudice, we've moved from a simple position of eliminating prejudice and treating everybody equally, which is a just and equitable aim, to a point where people are being accorded a special status deserving of extra consideration just because of their sexuality or skin colour, which is neither just nor equitable.